In the days following the chaotic attack on the Galactic Council, the corridors of the New Terra Medical Facility echoed with a strange, somber silence. Nestled deep within the hustle and bustle was a private recovery suite where Ambassador Solane rested, his shoulder on the mend after the brutal assault. The piercing pain of the energy blast had been replaced with a dull ache, a gentle reminder of the turbulent events that had transpired. Even in this recuperative solitude, Solane couldn't find solace. His mind was abuzz, caught in the intricate web of politics and plotting. As the human representative on the Galactic Council, his life had been perpetually spent under the spotlight. But this latest ordeal had pushed the boundaries like never before. His thoughts returned to the consequential day when this grand plan was conceived. It was a clandestine assembly within the heart of the human military command, attended only by a select few top brass. The objective was crystal clear: the Veritans, a race with which they now shared space in the Galactic Council. However, the humans harbored a profound bitterness towards them. This animosity was anchored not in recent altercations, but in the Veritans' actions centuries ago. The Veritans had upheld the Galactic Council's decree to annihilate all humans, a transgression that had etched a deep scar on the collective memory of mankind. Now, with this meticulously plotted scheme, it was time for retribution. Their plan was risky, yet ingeniously cunning. Using their elaborate network of spies nestled within Veritan society, they stoked the fire of Veritan hatred against the humans. Misinformation, sabotage, and whispered rumors were all part of their arsenal, ensuring the Veritans felt the sting of betrayal, whether real or imagined. And it had worked. The attack on the council chamber had shocked the galactic community, causing widespread outrage against the Veritans. The humans had won the first round of this dangerous game. As Solane mulled over the events, the reality of what they had done gnawed at his conscience. A part of him wondered whether their actions had pushed the boundaries of diplomacy too far. After all, they had manipulated an entire race, setting them up for a fall. But another part of him argued that it was a necessary evil, a path they had to take to secure their position and ensure human safety. His introspection was interrupted by the soft beep of his communicator. Solane sighed, shaking off his thoughts. His wound might be healing, but the battle was far from over. The games of intergalactic politics were just beginning. The next few days would determine the course of human-Veritan relations, shaping the future of the Galactic Council and, indeed, all sentient life across the cosmos. Their plan was set in motion, and there was no turning back now. Ambassador Solane's communicator beeped again, jolting him from his contemplation. He braced himself for the discussion to come. "Varo," he said, recognizing the gruff Veritan timbre without needing to check the caller ID. Solane, the Veritan leader's voice was icy, laden with the weight of unspoken accusations. "I am leaving for Veritan Command." Solane took a moment to process the gravity of this statement. Varo's departure wasn't a simple return home, it was a severance, a withdrawal from the diplomatic commitments they had begun to forge. The bond they had started building mere months ago now felt tenuous, strained by the burden of the recent attack. "I didn't wish for this, Varo," Solane finally managed, breaking the heavy silence. "No," came the brusque retort. "But it was your people who set it into motion." Varo's biting accusation hung in the air, a painful reminder of the deception orchestrated by Solane's own race. Yet, in the midst of the duplicity, Solane felt an unexpected pang of loss. Their fledgling friendship, born out of shared goals and mutual respect, was now on the brink of collapse. "We may have anticipated that the Veritans were being led into a trap," he confessed, his words laced with regret. "And yet, you stood by and watched," Varo countered, the bitterness in his voice palpable. "The Galactic Council was meant to promote peace, Solane, not deceit. The humans have shown their true colors. Their conversation, once marked by camaraderie and shared aspirations, now echoed with resentment and recriminations." Solane could hear the undercurrent of disappointment in Varo's voice, reflecting the fractured trust between their species. "My departure isn't just a return, Solane," Varo continued, his voice stern. "It is a recall of all Veritan high-ranking officials. We won't stand by and let the humans tarnish our honor. We will prepare for any eventuality." The meaning behind Varo's words was clear. The Veritans were considering war. Their once promising alliance was on the verge of descending into a bitter rivalry. "And so, we part ways, Solane," Varo's voice softened, a hint of the old camaraderie seeping through. "We were friends, but it seems we are destined to become adversaries." The line went dead, leaving Solane alone with his thoughts. As he mulled over Varo's words, he was acutely aware of the precarious position the humans were in. They had made their move, and now they had to brace themselves for the Veritan response. Despite the apparent success of their plan, Solane felt an unease settle over him. They had ignited this conflict, sown the seeds of mistrust. It was a perilous gambit, and Solane couldn't help but question, at what cost would their victory come? He knew that they had pushed Varro into a corner. And from his brief friendship with the Veritan leader, Solane knew one thing for certain: Varro would not back down without a fight. As Solane stared into the darkness of his chamber, a daunting realization dawned upon him. They had not averted a war, but rather set the stage for one. The game was far from over, and Solane knew they were now walking on a razor's edge. On board the Resurgence, Solane was preparing for his departure to the Galactic Council. His luggage was packed neatly, filled with important documents and information he needed for the upcoming meeting. The Resurgence's deck, usually buzzing with activity, was eerily quiet. The crew's faces mirrored their leader's solemnity. Suddenly, an urgent message blasted through the ship's intercom. "All hands, report to the main deck immediately." The voice crackled with tension. The message was clear: something was wrong. Solane quickened his pace, his mind racing through various scenarios. As he reached the main deck, a panoramic view of the vastness of space stretched out before him. The holographic screen displayed a wreckage field, remnants of a ship that was once a colossal masterpiece of Veritan technology. It was now reduced to a field of cold, lifeless debris, reflecting harsh, spectral light from distant stars. News feeds on the side screens filled in the horrifying details. The ship was the Veritans' pride, home to several high-ranking officials, all lost in the tragic accident. The feed suggested a catastrophic internal failure leading to the explosion, but no concrete evidence was provided. Solane's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. The explosion was the culmination of a meticulously planned operation, one which he had a hand in, but it was still shocking to see the wreckage, tangible evidence of their scheme. He then convened an emergency military meeting. Their next steps were crucial. The galaxy was on the edge of anarchy, and any misstep could plunge them into chaos. The main display came to life, showing a map of human-controlled space, an area far more significant than the Galactic Council might have imagined. Colonized worlds, space stations, and military outposts were marked across the sector. Allied alien races cohabited these territories under a federation with the humans. Alongside it, they showed the Galactic Federation's map for comparison. It was clear, the humans had grown far more widespread and influential in the last millennium, and this was something the Council was unaware of. As the meeting progressed, the sentiment of vengeance filled the room. "We need to show the Veritans our strength," one general suggested. "If only we could reveal it was us," another lamented. The room echoed with murmurings of agreement. As the meeting neared its conclusion, Solane's piercing gaze swept across the room. A palpable silence filled the air as he lifted his hand, making his intentions clear. "All military forces within the Human Federation are to be put on high alert," he commanded, his voice resonating with an icy calm. "We must be prepared for any outcome." His declaration echoed through the silent room, met by a resounding chorus of affirmations. Directives were swiftly dispatched to every human military installation and vessel within their territory. In response, the full might of the human military machine came alive. Battlecruisers, dreadnoughts, and destroyers, each entering a heightened state of readiness, their gleaming hulls humming with a sense of purpose and anticipation. An immediate recall order was issued for all military vessels, regardless of their operational status or current deployment. Patrol routes were abandoned, military exercises cut short, and long-range reconnaissance missions curtailed as every vessel began its journey back towards the border demarcating the division between Human Federation and Galactic Council space. Civilian ships and cargo vessels were not directly affected by this recall, yet the tension spreading across the human territories did not leave them untouched. Each vessel was advised to stay vigilant and cautious in these uncertain times, but they continued their regular operations, undeterred by the undercurrents of political upheaval. This hasty consolidation of military forces echoed a sense of foreboding across the Human Federation. Humans had instigated this situation, their desire for retribution against the Veritans for past atrocities steering them towards a path of potential conflict. As Solane watched the holographic display, his gaze fixated on the symbols representing their returning military vessels. He found himself hoping that the seeds they had sown would not grow into a devastating interstellar war. But if conflict was inevitable, he knew the humans were ready to defend their place in the universe and their right to justice, no matter the cost. As the echoes of Solane's order resonated throughout the vast human territory, far away on the homeworld of the Veritans, Ambassador Varro found himself amidst the military hierarchy of his people. The gleaming spires of Veritan military command rose around him, an emblem of their military prowess and a constant reminder of the past horrors his people had once inflicted. Inside the command center, the air was heavy with a tense quiet, punctuated by the low murmur of military officers discussing the calamity that had befallen them. A holographic projection at the center of the room displayed the scattered remnants of the Veritan ship that had been lost. As he joined the gathering, he was updated on the situation. There were whispers, veiled suspicions of possible human involvement. They had no direct evidence linking the humans to the catastrophe, but the weight of the circumstantial evidence was daunting. The abrupt hostility, the secretive nature of the humans, the unexplained departure of the humans from the Galactic Council just before the incident, it was all too coincidental to be dismissed. Varro stared at the holographic representation of the destroyed ship, its debris field scattered across the silent void of space. If these suspicions turned out to be true, if the humans had indeed instigated this, it would mean only one thing: war. The notion sent a shiver down his spine, but he also felt an odd sense of resolve hardening within him. He had believed in peace, in diplomacy, and in the power of shared history to bridge the chasm between their races. But if it was war the humans wanted, then it was war they would get. The Veritans would not back down, not this time. As the meeting continued, the discussions shifted from recovery efforts to strategic planning, from rescue to retaliation. The air in the command center grew colder, the weight of their decisions pressing down on them. The tension in the room was palpable, a storm was brewing, and it threatened to engulf the entire galaxy.